community is demanding answers tonight as police try to track down the shooters involved in a gunfight that wounded 6 people, including 2 children.
The 1-year-old boy was crossing the street with his parents in Brooklyn when a gunman opened fire and shot the boy in the head.
I'm sick and tired. A 1-year-old baby. I can't sleep after that.
I can't even count the amount of people I know that has been killed. I really can't.
There's nothing more violent than economic oppression and unemployment and poverty.
Peace up, guns down! Peace up, guns down! Stop the violence! Stop the violence! Stop the violence!
The sound of gunshot. Black folks make up only 13% of the U.S. population, but commit over half of the nation's homicides. My name is Samson Styles, and I'm currently an award-winning journalist, writer, and correspondent. But that wasn't always my reality. And like many from deprived neighborhoods, I have an ugly past filled with felony convictions and violence. I've done 7 years in prison on gun and drug charges and have been shot multiple times.
This from taking 5. I don't have a collarbone on this side of my body. I got half a chest on the left side. My top lobe of my lung had to get cut off. I have a hard time breathing now. It took me 4 years, y'all, to do 1 push-up.
But I turned my life around and made something of myself. And this is 11-year-old Christopher Underwood. He's the same age I was when I first started my used-to-be life of crime. But unlike me, Christopher is on the right track. His 14-year-old brother, Akil Christopher, was murdered. He was shot execution style in June of 2012. Akil Christopher's murder remains unsolved. No arrest was ever made. Christopher is filled with anger and grief because of his brother's murder. His mother's familiar with my past of being both a victim and perpetrator of gun violence. And his mother suggested that he talk to me to get some of his questions answered. One of the things Christopher remembers about his brother Akil is that he always took him to the basketball court to play basketball. So I figured I'd shoot some hoops with Christopher and see where this conversation ends up. I see you got a little game with you, man.
Yeah.
Huh? Oh, man. So I'm glad you came to talk to me, man. First of all, I want to say I apologize for your loss. Sorry for your brother. What happened with your brother? I know that's tough. And that I'm here for you, man. So any questions that you need to ask, just ask me, and I'll be honest with you, all right?
Okay, so my first question for you is, I know you've been shot. Do you know who shot you?
Yeah, I do know the guy who shot me. One of the guys' name is Stephen Thomas, but in the streets, he goes by the name of Smoke. He grew up in my grandmother's building in the Brownsville projects.
I know Samson since he was a kid, but we used to call him JJ. My mother named my little brother after his uncle, after his first cousin, Ivy's father. That's how close the family was.
According to the latest FBI crime stats, only 10.2% of the murders in the United States were random. So you do the math.
The idea that it's gang warfare or all this other stuff kind of is really not the facts. The fact is that people have personal disputes and they got access to weapons. They have personal disputes and the personal disputes turn deadly.
Where I live, there's like, if you mess with somebody, the next day they will come back or fight you, or they will like get a gun or something and threaten you.
My name is Monica Castleberry. I am the mother of Jamal Singleton, who was murdered September 19, 2011 in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, in front of 977 Green Avenue.
Why did Smoke shoot you?
Well, it happened way before you was born, man. In 1988, I used to do armed robberies on drug dealers.
Yeah, I let this guy named Alvin, a little worker of mine, he was working with me. I was selling drugs then at the time. I let him hold some jewelry.
I wound up befriending this dude, and
He let me in his house, showed me his safe and all that. I wound up robbing him. I stuck him up, tied him up by myself, left him up there in the house.
That was on a Thursday night. I told him I'd be back on Friday at 12 o'clock.
Come to find out, the guy that I had robbed, it wasn't his stuff at all. It belonged to the dude Smoke.
I said, yo, let me get my jewelry album so I can break out. So he was looking and I was looking. I was like, oh man, I know something happened. The little kid was scared to tell me that somebody robbed him. His man robbed him.
And 2 months later,
I said, we gonna find this cat and we gonna take my chain back from him. Because I said, yo, man, I ain't approaching this dude. Y'all telling me all this stuff about this brother. You know how dangerous he is and how he shoot people without no weapon.
It was the 4th of July. Everybody was cooking out, having fun. So we walked back around the corner.
it was a cookout like right over here. These fences, these gates weren't here before. This was all like flat, just running into the building. It was just a flat space. And all the kids and stuff was out here. And I remember my two cousins was fighting.
He went into the middle of them and he told them cut it out. And they stopped. And he took my son and he put my son in the stroller.
When I broke it up, I told him, I said, look, y'all family, y'all don't need to be fighting each other.
I drove in front of 330 and I got out. I said, yo, is that him? He said, yeah, that's him. I said, come on. I told the kid, Louis, I said, give me the gun. He gave me the gun.
And a black car pulled up. Stephen jumped out. I saw the gun.
And I walked with the gun out on my side, all the way to where he was at.
And when I looked up, I heard somebody say, yo, give me my shit back, man. Give me my shit.
That's when I saw Stephen. He approached my nephew and he had a gun out.
So when I looked up, somebody had the gun pointed to my head. It was Smoke. Smoke had the gun in my face.
When he lifted his head up out the hood, that's when I knew who he was. And when he did that, I was like, oh, I was kind of like shocked. You know what I'm saying? So I kept the gun. I said, yo, you know what I'm here for, man. I said, just take my chain off, man. Let's take my chain off.
So I told him, I said, yo, look, you know, and I put my hand in my pocket while I was speaking to him. I said, yo, look, man, you know, let's go around the corner around here because there's too many kids outside.
So he ain't no punk, so he was talking junk. So I'm looking him in his eyes, and I'm like, yo, this guy, he ain't trying to give me the chain back. I got a gun to his head.
He said, yo, take your hands out your pocket, man. Take your hands out your pocket.
Peep slipped his hand in his right hand in his pocket and pulled out the 380.
Me and him both had our guns pointed at each other now. So I told him, put his gun down, and I put mine down, man, because, you know, if you squeeze, I'm going to squeeze.
It seemed like Stephen, you know, maybe was going to do it because I noticed that the hand he had his gun in, he was bringing it down.
You know, so everybody in the background was like, no, Stephen, no, Smoke, no, no.
So we both put our guns down. We both now at waist level. Then I feel a gun click to the back of my head.
Alvin came up in back of him, and he put the gun to my nephew's head, and my nephew kind of turned a little.
And I grabbed it. So he pointed the back. He said, yeah, you got me and I got your man.
That's when Stephen snatched the gun out of my nephew's hand.
And then I hit him in his head with the gun.
I felt the shot go off on my neck. And from there, it felt like a sledgehammer had just, you know, broke through my bones. I felt it.
And then he fell. I don't know if it hit him because my nephew was rolling. He started rolling.
They were shooting over me. And I rolled to the building.
That's when I just lost it. I just ran off the stoop and ran towards my nephew. And I covered over him and I looked Alvin up in his face and said, don't shoot him anymore.
I looked to my left, I seen blood squirting out my neck like a faucet. Then when I looked down, I seen I was in a puddle of blood that fast. I was just soaked. I was sitting in a puddle of blood.
My mother passed out. My nephew's father did not know what happened. He ran down the steps after everything had happened. Everyone was just really, you know, everyone was just so scared.
I snatched my then 8-month-old son, Larik, out the stroller and I ducked behind the van.
The main thing that upset me about the whole deal is that this was done around kids, my family.
I grew up with Samson and Smoke, and I was cool with both of them, but I lost all respect, no lie, for Smoke when he did that because he could have hit me, my son, his mother, Samson's mother, grandmother, because it was the 4th of July and there was so many people out there.
My baby was in the stroller, the way that the bullets was going like crazy. My son could have got killed, my 2-month-old son. Someone else's child could have got killed.
And I was like, man, any one of them kids could have got shot, you know, and I'm the only one who got arrested, and I did 20 years.
Yes, I went to court. I told my nephew, you are not gonna get no revenge.
Smoke went to trial because he knew I was on the run from police myself and I wasn't coming to court to testify on him. But they used my medical reports and testimonies of eyewitnesses to convict him.
Were you always a violent person, and when did you start becoming violent?
Yeah, I wasn't always a violent person. Well, the first 8 years of my life, I grew up in a pretty well-to-do community in Park Slope, Brooklyn. The public school system was pretty good, and it was encouraged by the teachers and the students to get excellent grades. If you got straight A's, you were considered cool. You were popping. And then my parents moved to Pink Houses, a project housing unit in East New York, Brooklyn. It was a culture shock.
When we moved to Pink Houses, it was a whole different environment. He wasn't born or raised in that kind of environment. There were gang fights, there were children that were out of control, parents that were out of control, drugs, alcohol, a lot of abuse going on, things that he had not seen from our previous residents.
And unlike Park Slope public school system, you was considered a sucker if you did well in school and strived for academic excellence. You was considered cool if you was like disruptive in class. And if you got left back, you was super cool. If you got left back twice, you was like a god.
When kids are not proud of being A students, or if they're not proud of devoting their time to studies, you know, we have to give them examples of why that is so important.
For Black society, and unfortunately in America, where they've commodified prison and street culture, where our kids sit around and they are inundated with visual images of violence. They are sold music that says to be a man, you have to utilize violence to get the woman, to get the car, to get on top.
So I developed a behavior problem in the 4th grade. I didn't want nobody picking on me. I wanted to fit in.
He went from this sweet, lovable child that we all loved and adored to this little monster.
Where we from, no, you gotta be tough. You gotta have a little bit like respect on your name. Where we from? If you don't have no respect in your name, they don't respect you, period.
Would you mess with a dude that's like, wear glasses and just straight up in the books and just straight up nerd? Would you talk to a dude like that?
Keep it real. Keep it real.
A student.
Keep it real, no, I wouldn't.
And why not?
Because like, now that type of dude, that's not my type.
You notice even the young girls, they don't want no young dude that be in school that got no job. You know what I'm saying? They want the nigga with the bandana on and the dreads, you know what I'm saying? With the $200 pair of jeans on. That's who they want.
Like, basically, it's nothing wrong with dating a nerd. Like, you don't want your man to be stupid neither. But, you know, as long as they doing what they gotta do, you really don't care. He could be a nerd, but, like, I don't know, something sports. I like basketball players.
In some communities, many of our students see music, basketball, and football as their only way out, their only way out of poverty. And the fact of the matter is, most of our kids aren't going to make it to the NBA or the NFL, and most of them are not going to be like Jay-Z. Education is the only equalizer.
If a student isn't reading on his or her reading level by the 3rd grade, they are 4 times less likely to graduate high school, and if they are from a low-income family, it's 6 times less likely. The challenges become greater when you're living in poverty, and your dough is super low.
Growing up in a poverty-stricken home, they're not eating properly. They start developing behavioral issues.
They come into school a little bit late. They're super tired. They miss breakfast, and so what are they doing first thing in the morning? They get one of those $1 sweet rolls. Sometimes they might have one of those energy drinks first thing in the morning too, like the cheap $1, $2 one. They eat that. They get to class. They get to school late. They're bouncing off the walls because of a sugar rush, and they can't sit still, so they're getting in trouble because of lack of focus and being disruptive in class. Then in the afternoon, they crash. They go into that slump. Now, teachers mad at them because they're falling asleep in their class, and you get tired of people calling you out because you're not paying attention to class.
So, in my estimation, we have an over-referral process that a lot of our African American boys end up in special education as a result of that.
the school starts categorizing them for certain things. There are, through the court system and through other social efforts, there's all types of jobs that are created to address that, to medicate them, to assign social workers. That's money. To juvenile facilities, that's money. Adult facilities, that's money. The jails, that's money. You know, federal funding to address certain arrests, that's money. That's an industry.
By the time I was 11 years old, I started getting in trouble a lot. I was getting arrested for stealing and robberies, and I was skipping school a lot.
Samson was sent away at 12 years old for a crime that he committed. He was sent to Lincoln Hall for the year and a half that he was there. The judge felt that it was best that he go, and we felt that it was best that he go because he was totally out of control.
In those areas, it seemed like when you get awarded from doing the wrong thing, you get applauded. Like when I came home from juvenile detention, the older brothers, what they were saying to me was, yo, that's nothing, man. Watch when you get to the big boy prison. They didn't tell me to stay out of trouble. Don't do what you've been doing because you're gonna wind up in the big boys prison. They said, oh, that's nothing, man. Watch when you get to the big boy prison. Like that was normal, that I would graduate from doing a juvenile delinquency bid to an adult prison bid, which I wound up doing. And when I came home, I was glorified like if I just earned a master's degree in college.
High school dropouts are 63 times more likely to be incarcerated than college grads, and 68% of all men in the state and federal prisons do not have a high school diploma.
My name is Bridget Hogard. I lost my son, Terrell Fountain, June 26, 2011, in Jamaica, Queens.
Do you think missing fathers have a lot to do with the social issues and gun violence in our communities?
Well, even though I grew up in a two-parent household in the projects, I still managed to get myself in a bunch of trouble. Now, in pink houses, there's 22 buildings with at least 64 families in each building. And I still can barely count on one hand the amount of families I know that grew up with a father or stepfather in the household.
Well, speaking of lack of fathers, me being my age, I've never met mine. Never had one in my life.
A lot of mothers are working 2 and 3 jobs. A lot of fathers are running around here making babies here, making babies there, making babies there. You can't be a daddy in everybody's house.
You just poking everything that move, making these babies and leaving them.
My father left in the 3rd grade, so I didn't have nobody to tell me this is how a relationship looks. This is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. So I gravitated to the streets.
They grown up without a father, single mother. What they do? Turn to the streets with other kids without fathers. Then the young ones find older fathers. They 12, they father 17. Oh, that's my pops, that's my son. All right, you gonna get less time than me, so I'm gonna give you the gun. And you go do that jokes. You're gonna be out in 3 years, you're a juvenile. And they doing it. They doing it, it's crazy.
Because that's the problem. Most of the young have a father figure, a real father. Because most of the father figures that I grew up seeing, most of them did dumb shit that I'm looking at them like, you a bozo.
My mother did the best she could do to raise me. I didn't have that father grab me by the neck and be like, boy, you better be in the house by 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I remember walking around. Me and my parents were somewhere downtown Brooklyn, and we went to eat at McDonald's. And I felt like I was the only kid in there who had their father in McDonald's, and I became really conscious of that. It's kind of like, why are all these eyes staring on me just because I have my father here with me?
You look at most societies where the children are successful. There is no gun violence. Why? Because it starts at home. 2-parent households.
Yeah, I grew up with my father in the house, you know, but he did a lot of drugs. Yeah, he did a lot of drugs. He used to shoot up heroin in front of me. He used to, you know, sprinkle crack in his weed in front of me, take me out of school and say that I had a doctor's appointment. You know, I almost got left back my 1st grade.
You can't even just say fathers, because
That's one thing, like, you know, with the black community, we can't continue to use that excuse also, just only the lack of a father, because we all have family. So it's lack of family. You know, we need to all be stepping in. You know, if there's a single mother out there, guess what? But you have an auntie, you got an uncle, you have cousins, you know, we all have to start bringing it back to the essence of what true family really is, and, you know, have discussions and talk.
We don't have those uncles no more that put their foot in your ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you doing the wrong thing. Even your so-called big homies or your friends and shit like that, they're afraid, man. They're afraid to say something to the young guys, you know what I'm saying? Because they're afraid of the consequences.
So if we practice that, you know, we're gonna make sure that it's gonna be our responsibility to check on our kids and make sure they're doing their homework, or we're gonna, you know, interact with the Pop Warner football or baseball, or we're gonna go mentor kids in the schools. We just have to make sure we do our part.
How many people we got to look up to say, I don't want to hustle. I want to be like such and such. Those such and such don't exist in our hood. You understand what I'm saying?
The divorce rate in America is outrageous, right? So there are many people without fathers in their lives, right? You know, there's a difference between having a community support that's wrapped around you and you being on your own.
According to a 2014 U.S. Census Bureau ACS study, more than half, 55% of all black families with children are headed by a single woman, and 46% of those families live in poverty.
Hi, I'm Simone Rembert. My son was murdered on July 5th of 2013, also in Bedford-Stuyvesant.
Why aren't the fathers around? What happened?
Well, that's not an easy question to answer, but I could give you some historical facts. From the 1890s, just 25 years after the emancipation through the 1960s, black people over the age of 35 were more likely to be married than whites. During those years, black families were much more united than nowadays. During the 1890s, black Southerners' standard of living rose tremendously. Black land ownership tripled and education and literacy increased by over 40%. Some black folk were even elected into Congress and were aggressively pushing forward. Now, during the 1960s, 70 years later, the presence of black fathers started decreasing rapidly, like overnight. And ironically, it was around the same time that segregation ended. It was also a time of the Vietnam War. And although blacks only made up 11% of the population at that time, there were 12.6% of the soldiers fighting. Many of the soldiers returned from the war addicted to heroin, which created a big demand and led to the infestation of heroin addicts and dealers in many black-deprived communities.
That's a lot to digest.
And there's more. In the 1960s, the food stamp program was revisited, and the Medicaid program was created to help provide assistance to a lot of single black mothers and their children, but there were stipulations that would penalize the women if they had a man living in their house.
Remember that movie Claudine? Yeah. And it was funny how James Earl Jones, you know, he had to get out of this crib so that Diane Carroll wouldn't get, you know, she wouldn't lose her check, and then you got this white social worker coming to see, you know, what's really going on in the crib.
If you've been seeing this man... Well, what is this? Am I not supposed to see a man? What am I, a damn nun? No, but if you've been sleeping with a man and he's been giving you things, I'm sorry, but I have to know. Do you sleep with a man?
Now, that's none of your business.
It's none of your business either.
You're wrong, Mrs. Price. It is our business. This man may be bringing things into your home which you may not be deducting. Now, you know I have to deduct you on those things.
What?
From generation to generation, you have the removal, the mass removal of black males from our neighborhoods.
Now, during the 1970s and 80s, there was a huge decline in unskilled manufacturing jobs that hit black men especially hard. And by 1985, unemployment rates more than doubled that of white men from the ages of 25 to 54. And not to mention the crack epidemic that came destroying the hood like a giant tsunami from 1984 till this day. Black men make up over half of the nation's homicide victims and over half of the ones committing the homicides. And we can't sleep on the incarceration rate. 1 out of every 3 black men will go to jail or prison in his lifetime.
You know, there's fathers and sons sitting in jail together. There's brothers in jail together. There's cousins in jail together.
I did a 7 flight, did 6 out of 7 for a weapons charge. Yeah, I came home. It just wasn't the same. So it's just like me adapting to everything was kind of strange.
And they go to a place that, you know, they're socialized in a whole nother way, so that when they come back, it's almost like they were a newborn baby, because they're coming back to a barren land.
Now, despite all the systematic challenges that helps to keep the black man removed from his community and family, there are many men that are just plain old jackasses that made a conscious decision to run away from their responsibilities.
My name is Patricia Lett. This is my son, Dwayne Lett, who was actually executed. I don't like the word murdered. He was shot 6 times, twice in the head, 4 after he fell onto the ground, Rockaway Parkway, June 4th, 2013, 1:15 in the afternoon.
Now, even though I had a father in the household with me, I still didn't respect him enough to take heed to the wisdom he was trying to drop on me. I was like listening to the streets.
Wait, so was it more like your environment that played a part in you becoming violent?
Exactly. My environment had at least 90% to do with the poor decisions I made. See, like I grew up in pink houses in the Brownsville projects, and it's full of despair and poverty. And whenever you go to a neighborhood like that, any neighborhood like that, it's gonna have basically the same statistics.
So is that the reason for so much black on black crime?
Have you ever heard of white on white crime, Asian on Asian crime, or Spanish on Spanish crime? According to the latest FBI crime stats, the majority of all people murdered were killed by someone belonging to their own race.
You know, they came up with this black on black crime, like we're the only ones that commit crime. And I worked in Astoria. It's mostly Greek area. We locked a lot of people. Most of my arrests as a cop, I locked up white people.
You know, white on white crime doesn't fit the narrative of America. And the narrative of America is black and crime, they go together. White and crime don't go together. And that's the narrative that's been practiced by this country for years.
I think now there's reasons why these things are happening. Economics, poverty, job situations, loss of programming. I mean, there's so many things.
You can't talk about black on black crime that's going on in major cities without talking about its origin. And it all started with the Great Migration.
Let's talk about the Great Migration and how black people fled the South because they were being lynched and killed and exiled of opportunity. And they fled to these northern cities. And when they fled to these northern cities, these white people then started practicing de facto segregation.
The majority of white folk in the northern cities started moving away from the black people that migrated there. They became marginalized and boxed into small communities with de facto segregation. The schools were bad, no loans were given, and there were really no investments made into these communities.
They took the property tax and the base out of the community, and the government actually subsidized the move to suburban communities and left, you know, these communities. This is when they allowed us to begin to run for office and take over, and left these communities in distress, and we're still recovering from that.
So if you get any group of people and put them in a situation where there's a lack of resources and a lack of opportunities and mix that with capitalism, crime and violence is going to fester, no doubt about it. Let's take a look at the Brownsville section of Brooklyn, for instance. Brownsville, Brooklyn is predominantly African American and has one of the highest murder rates in New York City. It's only 1 square mile, but has the largest concentration of public housing projects in the nation. There's 18 different housing developments in this tiny space. Approximately 90,000 people condensed to a metric box. 37% live below the federal poverty level. It's the poorest neighborhood in Brooklyn, and the crime rate is crazy. But before Brownsville became overwhelmingly occupied by black people, it was a predominantly white Jewish neighborhood with identical socioeconomic issues that still reign today. And guess what? Jewish Brownsville held the same reputation for being a crime-ridden slum, just the same as the Brownsville of today. I caught up with historian Daniel Sawyer, who was able to give more detail about the Brownsville of old.
Brownsville was one of the poorest Jewish immigrant neighborhoods in the city, and the conditions there were not great. People lived in crowded conditions. They lived in substandard housing. Families did not have a lot of income. And so it was a poor neighborhood, and it was also known as a tough neighborhood. A lot of the stories you hear of people who came out of Brownsville talk about the streets, and especially for the boys, you know, running around in the streets and the influence of the streets on the children. And there were a lot of social welfare organizations active in the neighborhood. Nevertheless, many of the young children of immigrants became active in local gangs, and sometimes, as they describe it, looked up to the adult criminals. The adult criminals were the guys who drove the cars and wore the fancy suits and had the girls, and so they kind of looked up to them, you know, and many of these young people got drawn into criminal activities as well. So Brownsville was always known as a tough neighborhood. The most famous group that came out of it was Murder Inc., you know, and these were guys, mostly Jews, with some Italians as well, who were basically hitmen for organized crime, and they were quite brutal.
Wait, so how did the Jews make it out of Brownsville?
Well, Brownsville was mainly a Jewish community from the 40s, 50s, and well into the 60s. And more black people started migrating there to escape racial segregation and oppression from the South.
I mean, the neighborhood had been shrinking as a Jewish neighborhood, so the boundaries, kind of the Jewish sections, were shrinking. But then it just disappeared very quickly within 10 years in the late 50s and 60s. But after World War II especially, by that time there weren't that many immigrants arriving, you know, so this was really second generation and third generation even. And after World War II, a lot of these young men and even some women took advantage of the GI Bill in the Army during World War II, and they went to college. And so they were working their way up, and they didn't stay in Brownsville, they left.
But it wasn't that easy for black people in Brownsville because the Jewish people had way more resources.
And so there weren't the kind of jobs that were available to the Jews to work their way up through from the 1950s, 1960s, when African Americans were coming into Brownsville and other neighborhoods in New York as well. And so for the Jews, they had the garment industry, you know, and even though many didn't stay in the garment industry, the number of people who passed through the garment industry is astounding, is very high. One thing you see in the garment industry, though, is also discrimination. Jews face discrimination too, but not at the same level as African Americans. And Jews also had access to more capital. So in the garment industry, the employers were Jewish and the workers were Jewish. And by the 60s, they were sometimes very reluctant actually to hire African Americans.
So you see, it's not really a black on black thing, it's a social economic thing that helps the violence to perpetuate in these communities. Brownsville have roughly 100,000 people living there, and there's many businesses, but I don't know of many, if any, that employs people from the neighborhood except the barbershops.
There are 0 stores in this area that's giving jobs to black people. No, not at all. And if there were more stores hiring, or if we had black owners, it would definitely be better, because guess what? I'm about to go to work and make my own money, and then I live right around the corner.
Job, J-O-B. I'm 21 with no job. I've been in and out the system. I need a job.
When I started, I knocked on doors and I was able to sweep, wipe windows to the jewelry store. That's how I got my job, by just walking in. Like, you don't see that anymore.
And the residents have to withhold their dollar if you have a business owner who's not cooperating, who's not participating in the community by hiring local people, by providing a good, safe environment for people to come in and shop.
And that's part of the reason why I stepped up to become mayor, because I've seen communities of color be excluded from development and enjoying the prosperity of where they are. Harlem's a case in point, Brooklyn's a case in point, and the parts of Queens have become a case in point.
We've done a survey, we've done a tour of our district and our community. And we find that most of the small businesses in our neighborhood are not hiring the people of that neighborhood. As a matter of fact, most of their workforce live outside the neighborhood, and they commute and travel into the neighborhood to work. So it's unfortunate that they don't see, even the businesses in our community, the value of its constituencies.
Well, it's actually good for business for people to hire people in the neighborhood. People support businesses that hire the folks from the neighborhood. They protect those businesses thrive. It actually helps boost the community, the economy of that neighborhood and the community, and in turn helps grow the business.
But see, this isn't happening in communities like Brownsville. You got the businesses, they're taking all the resources out of the neighborhood without giving as little as a job to people that live in the community. But people like A.T. Mitchell, founder of Man Up Inc., understands the value of people being able to work in the community where they also live. His nonprofit organization is a multi-purpose community-based organization that only employs people from the neighborhood.
You look at any supermarket that you go into our neighborhood, they're employing themselves. You know, you go into any restaurant in our neighborhood, mostly, Asian type of descent, they're employing themselves. If ever, you're gonna see a person that's from the neighborhood working at a Chinese restaurant. And so we get it, we understand it. And that's why here at Man Up Inc., we are employing community people. We here are proud to be able to say that we know the people who work here are from here. We can start our own businesses. We could be our own employers. And we could force our people to do business with us in a respectful way, like they do business with everyone else. So at Man Up Inc., we just opened this year up the first ever Business and Entrepreneur Youth Training Center. And the Business and Entrepreneur, we call it BET, Training Center, is geared towards teaching young people from our neighborhood how to operate their own business, how to be their own variety store. We circumvented one of our locations, our multi-purpose site, and we made it into a small cake shop or a house of dessert. And our young people operate that portion of the business every day. So for the first time in most of their lives, they know what it's like to look at a customer on the opposite side of the counter.
The lack of jobs and resources create poverty. Poverty, crime, and violence goes together like pancakes, butter, and syrup. According to the Department of Justice, people living at or below the federal poverty level had more than double the rate of violent victimization as persons in high-income households. And it didn't matter if they were black or white.
Hi, my name is Althea O'Hara Thurston. My son, Tariq O'Hara Morris, was murdered on June 1st, 2011. He was only 14 years old.
Do you think police can help the situation by community policing?
Of course, absolutely. But at the moment, they're taking a military approach to policing out with the pride black communities, and that ain't cool. How many people here think that the police are their friends?
No, wait, stop. Say that part. I meant no.
Before you say like you want to be a police when you grow up and you're supposed to look up to them, now I feel like they expect you to more like fear them. Because when you're like of color, they're more harsh against you.
There is no community policing. How can you police people that you're only summoning? You're only talking to me is to write me a summons. You're only coming into the housing development to see if someone's doing wrong. You're not coming here to talk to the kids. You're not sitting down and going up to apartment 6F and see how Miss Lily is doing. Just to check on her because I didn't see her today. You're not going in the park and saying that, you know what, if there are people hustling and selling drugs, let me get these guys out the park.
Being a mayor, and I know a lot of these police officers, I don't think the majority of our police officers are gonna go out and just grab every black guy that they see. But I think because there's no real community policing and no intelligence, and they got this idea what criminal looks like in their head, we all fit the description.
A police officer has a duty to inquire. So often a police officer walks up to somebody they don't know and asks what's going on and gets the response, I'm not doing anything. Imagine how that conversation changes if you know the police officer and they know you.
It's very important that these youth see police officers that look like them, that's not afraid to come into their community and to get out their police car, talk to them, and make them feel comfortable, but at the same time, hold them accountable when they're not doing things right.
When you have a neighborhood police, it's more than just policing. What it does is, it creates a fiber within the community to connect the dots. And through that community policing, you'll figure out what kids need a little bit of help because things are not that good for them at home. You'll figure out the good kids who just need some guidance and they don't know any better. You'll figure out the people who really probably shouldn't be in the community.
Some of my thoughts about community policing is, my first thought is we need to get back to it quickly because the police department's been putting a foot on the neck of the community to bring crime down for the last 25 years.
Community policing is dead. It's dead because what has happened is the police department has made the cops alienate the community. The community has alienated the police department. And the reason why, you can't keep beating me and tell me to love you.
You know, when we was little and younger, you know, people used to look up to cops. Now, people are afraid of cops.
We need the folks in the community to know the police officers in their community.
They keep coming to our communities doing the same thing. It's gonna sever the ties. We're gonna have more Eric Garners, more Key Gurley, more Tamir Rice incidents. We need to bridge that gap because it's imperative. The police are needed in the community.
But there are some people that are encouraging the community and the police to embrace each other for the greater good of the hood. After losing her 2 sons to gun violence, Jackie Rowe Adams co-founded Harlem Mother Saves Stop Another Violent End. Its primary focus is to help parents heal that lost their children to gun violence, but she also helps the new police recruits get acclimated with the people in her community.
As the new recruits, I get an opportunity with other community leaders to talk to the police, the new recruits that come on, and let them know the do's and the don'ts of the community and how that they could make it and how they could stay safe by saying good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and letting them know you don't have to be nasty or rude. What I do is we walk with the police and we introduce them to the people just walking in the community saying hi, and some of the businesses to let them know these are your police, there's gonna be police in the community. We don't want you to feel when you see them that you did something wrong. We want you to feel safe and able to talk to them. We try to make sure that our community and our young people know because you see the cop, that don't mean you did something wrong or they're gonna arrest you or they're looking for something. In order to have a safe street, safe city, we must work together.
Like when I was a commander, I used to bring, believe it or not, I used to bring people off the street. Somebody was a former felon that did like 9 years in prison, but he did it like 25, 30 years ago, changed his life, works for UPS, making $100,000 now. And I would bring him to roll call or talk to the cops and say, look, you see this guy right here, Bob? He did 9 years in 1980, but he making more money than y'all now. He changed his life. This is the type of guy that's out there.
We know from research that 5% of the population commits 60% of the violent crime. So if we can identify those people who are most likely to commit violent crime, because they're also most likely to be the victims of violent crime, we can suppress that violence and really do something about it in communities, particularly communities of color.
And the only way to positively identify individuals that's committing the crime is to know the people in the community that you're policing.
So in Mount Vernon, there's a disconnect between our police having a relationship with people. And one of the things that I focus on is trying to get our officers to, get out their car, walk on the beat. Not just walk the beat, but observe and interact with folks.
We really need police officers to have residency requirements to live in communities where they police for a particular period of time, right? And I'm not asking them to live in there indefinitely, because I think that's an unfair request, but I think that there has to be a period of time where you live in that community, where you become intimate with the folks in that neighborhood and community and get a level of sympathy for what's happening there.
In black neighborhoods, it's rare to see a police officer that actually live in the community that they are policing. Detective David Clark of the Mount Vernon, New York Police Department is one of the rare police officers that only uses one zip code for both his place of residence and the community that he polices.
So I'm a product of my environment. Went away to school and then came back. And I've always been involved in working in the community prior to being a police officer. But I have an interesting dynamic because being from the community, born and raised there, I'm 42 years old, I'm right in the middle. So people that are my age, we all went to high school together. If they have kids, I kind of know them because they're in school. Then the older people, I kind of know them because that's mostly my friends, that's their parents. So I'm in a good place when it comes to knowing what's going on in the community, knowing the slang, knowing the dynamic. Nothing's a mystery to me growing up in the city that I've been around. So, when things occur in the community, I kind of can already gauge the climate, and it's not a shock to me because I know how to deal with it.
I went on a ride-along with Detective Clark just to see how it is to police a community that you were born and raised in.
Juggy, what up?
man.
Yo, what up?
Hey, yo,
What you doing, brother?
I seen you in the paper, right?
Yeah, you saw me in the paper?
Oh, you went to see the President Obama?
Yeah, I saw Obama. Yeah.
How was that, man?
It was life-changing.
You shook his hand and all that?
Yeah.
Talked to him and all that?
Yeah, you did?
Huh?
Yeah, what you wanted me to tell him?
Tell him, man, that the old man got out here in Mount Vernon.
Yeah, we need
Trying
help
to
out
get
here,
you
right?
Yeah.
We need
got help out here.
Juggy, you all right, man? Why you walk away from me?
Let's keep the peace, man.
Yeah.
And stop the violence and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Tell them stop all that.
That's what we need.
That's what it is for sure.
Yeah.
You know
Ray,
I'm
what
saying?
up?
Everybody out here doing this old dumb shit, and they think it's all right, and it's not all right. These people got kids out here, people got families out here, and all that shit. Now that shit is not the way to go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
All right, y'all be good, man.
No doubt.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's you know, the normal.
How important is it to, you think, the police to be from the area that they're policing?
I think it's good. I mean, you get to touch the people. What's up, bossy?
What's the camera for? What's going on today?
What's up, man? We're just talking. We're talking about Mount Vernon, man.
Mount Vernon, nice.
Yeah. How you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. Exercise and give God thanks for the next day.
All right.
Yeah, and give God thanks to see you too. Long time no see.
Yeah. I'm inside now most of the time doing the training and stuff. So I come outside and get with the people again.
Yeah, because you born here.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right.
So have a nice day.
Later.
All right.
I think it's a very important being from the community and stuff like that. What's up, Miss Chillis?
What's up?
Hey, how are y'all? How are y'all?
doing, bro?
All right.
What's going on?
How you?
You
Good?
know you got to give me 5 and a peace sign.
All right.
I'm filming, but how you doing?
Yes, I'm good.
You all right?
Oh, I'm sitting out here being a good girl.
That's right.
I'm a change.
Y'all keep her in check.
That's all. Oh, you know what I do? Oh my God, you remember?
It's almost like a superhero feeling at times to walk through a town and pretty much everybody knows you, and you can wave and you can say hi, you can say good morning, and someone's actually gonna say, hey, what's up? What's good? How's your mom? How's your dad? And you're gonna say the same thing back to them, and they actually know your mother and they actually know your father from the community. That's a great feeling to have, and then people depending on you to help them. We have this initiative now called Stop and Shake, where we set up booths across the city where I'm pretty much around school time, dismissal, in the business districts. Just set up a table, we got some flyers, and when people walk past, you just stop them. How are you? I'm Detective Clark. What's up? What's your name? Hey, how you doing? What's your name? I'm Detective Clark. Shake their hand and they leave. At first, they like, whoa, what's this about?
Police officers like David Clark are far and few in between in black communities, but they are very effective.
We do a basketball tournament, a snug basketball tournament, and then this year we did, it brought out over 500 people, and it was a successful event. We only had one police present, and that was David Clark. And we know if we got David Clark out there, nothing's gonna happen because he's well respected in his community. And at the end of the day, no violence.
See, this is simple arithmetic when it comes to dealing with the community. Just treat people right. Try to do better for them.
My name is Charmaine Smith. My cousin Deasia Robinson lost her life to a stray bullet on May 18, 2013. She was 14.
Do you think if people start snitching, it will help stop the gun violence?
Well, first, you gotta understand what that word snitching means and who it refers to.
People are saying this lady who lives on the 3rd floor that's been living in this neck of the woods for the past 30 some odd years, just because she's calling the cops on y'all because y'all shooting in front of the building, y'all selling crack in front of the building, they calling her a snitch. She's not a snitch.
It's not snitching, it's saving a life.
People who are not in the street, they're not in that. They shouldn't be judged to that.
Your man and you decide to rob a liquor store and you got away and your man gets knocked and he decides to tell on you while under police investigation, that's a snitch.
But I'm gonna tell you some real talk from being a prosecutor and a defense attorney. Them killers is telling. They tell on each other to get each other out the way so they can do more dirt. They tell on each other because they don't want to do that time.
I think the no snitch policy is a fiction because in my experience, when you get a guy, a bad actor, he's always willing to give you a badder actor.
There are some stand-up people who say, you know what, I made a mess of my life, I made a messed up decision, and I caused a lot of pain, and this is on me.
1/3 of homicides in America goes unsolved, and regardless of the amount of people that do cooperate with authorities, many believe that the no snitch policy contributes to the number of unsolved murders in the black communities.
Hi, my name is Helen Kahn. This is my husband, Derek Kahn. Our son, Cody Cash Kahn, was shot and killed February 5th, 2012 on Sutphin and 123rd.
Why aren't we doing anything in our communities to stop the violence?
Well, actually, we are. There's community-based organizations all over major cities that's doing stuff to decrease gun violence. I'll give you an example of how these organizations pull together in New York. Dr. Gore is an emergency physician at Kings County Hospital and is the founder of CAVI, which stands for Kings Against Violence Initiative. Young patients entering the hospital for being violently victimized are guided to Dr. Gore's CAVI program to receive resources, support, and mentorship that they wouldn't have gotten ordinarily. And if the young person has been fatally attacked, they would notify first responders like Orisa Napper-Williams, founder of Not Another Child. Her organization focuses on providing the parents of the deceased the proper support system needed to grieve, as she surrounds them with people like herself that has experienced losing their child to gun violence. And then you have Brother A.T. Mitchell, founder of Man Up Inc., which is a multifaceted community-based organization that provides job readiness, vocational training, and after-school services. They do hospital first responders work also. They deal with the family of the victims to help deter any retaliation.
We have an anti-violence department too. That is now got a national acclaim because of our success at helping us curb violence, gun violence in this particular case. Do we have any reported anything outside, like any severe, anything like on the A side?
As far as the shootings and killings on this side, we haven't had no shootings on this side, so we still consecutive with 156 days, no killings, and 133 days, no shootings in this target area.
All right, that's real good. Through this model that we actually were fortunate to be introduced to 5 years ago, that's called Cure Violence. And it's a community-driven public health approach to dealing with the issue of gun violence or creating public safety. But it's the community, way of participating. It gives us a chance to recruit people from the community that have been there and done that.
I used to be part of the problem, man. Now I'm part of the solution.
But they have all made a decision to want to change their lives around and change other young people or people who are involved in a similar lifestyle around. We give them a chance to do so through this Cure Violence model.
I go by the name of Brother Ra, short for Raheem, and I'm a VIS, which means Violence Interrupted Supervisor. And basically my job is to make sure that the VIs that's underneath me is out here doing their job, and their job is to go out here to keep their ears to the streets, to any type of beef that's going on out here, and to mediate situations before they come to some guns.
I'm off the block trying to jump me. I was coming home from school and trying to jump me. So I came over there, came to address the issue. I get over there, start talking hot, and y'all came. I was about to, yo, you saved these niggas, bro. Where's my mother? You saved these niggas, bro.
The Cure Violence Initiative has been very effective nationwide, founded by epidemiologist Dr. Gary Slutkin. An epidemiologist studies the patterns of diseases, and Dr. Slutkin's evaluated violence as a public health issue and his Cure Violence initiative take a clinical approach to combat gun violence as if it's a disease.
So this is the new science that the Institute of Medicine has validated that shows that it's behaving like a contagious disease. The efficacy of health-based approaches now has been demonstrated. I mean, just the Cure Violence method has been shown to reduce shootings and killings by up to 70% and to reduce retaliations by up to 100%.
Hi, my name is Phyllis Penix. My son, Anthony Washington, was murdered on April 19, 2007 in East New York at the age of 23.
Back to the guy that shot you. Did you see smoke after he came home from jail?
Boy, did I. It was crazy.
When he came home, I had got the word, like the day he came home, I got the call saying, yo, he's home. Now I'm wondering, man, like I'm working for BET now. I'm a journalist. I'm on the air.
I seen him on TV. Somebody pointed that out to me while I was in Art to Kill. You know, I'm glad for him. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let him live his life because I want to live my life.
I'm doing good, positive work. Now here come this dude. Now, what do I supposed to do? If I'm living by the code of the streets, maybe I'm supposed to hunt this dude down and sneak up on him or have somebody sneak up on him and put his lights out.
Most of the people that are getting killed are people that are returning from jail and been home less than a year. So somebody did something, they went to jail, they're waiting for them to return, and then murder happens. And then there's the kind of retaliatory violence that goes on back and forth.
I know he was thinking at the same time also, what do he have to do to me, being that he's home now? So this was on my mind. And then I bumped into this brother named Al that owned some barbershops that he was in the streets with us also at one time, and he turned his life around.
One day I'm driving in Manhattan. I was going to get some supplies, some beauty supplies for my shop. 8:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and Samson is crossing the street. So I was like, wow, there was Samson. So I bumped my horn, comes over, oh, what's up, Al? We start talking. He's like, yo, what's up? I'm like, ain't nothing, how you been, brother?
He told me, hey, look, man, you know, Smoke is home, man. I said, yeah, I know. And he said, yo, he wanna speak with you.
He wanted to sincerely let you know that, you know, he made amends with himself and he want to make amends with you.
I said, I'm older now, things is different. I just want to go home and I want to be a normal citizen, get a job, be with my family, and just live my life. That's all I want to do.
He said, you know, is it all right if I give him your number? So I told him, I said, yeah, and I gave Al my card, and I said, yo, tell Smoke to call me.
He said, yo, you know, set it up. You know, I talked to the brothers. So one day Smoke came over, and I said, yo, you want me to call Samson? So he said, yeah. He got anxious. Yeah, call the brother. So I said, all right, I'm gonna call him. So I called him. They got on the phone.
When I was talking to him on the phone, I talked to him maybe an hour, 2 hours the first time.
First thing he said, he apologized. Look, I apologize for what happened to you and what I did to you.
I guess I said it too many times because he said, yo, man, you ain't got to tell me that no more. I know you're sincere about that. You know, he said, I'm sorry too, you know.
And I told him, yo, you don't have to apologize to me, man. Like, you know, I was out there doing what I was doing, man. That's the consequences. But it's just my family that you owe apology for, man, because kids was out there, my family that you know that practically raised you was out there, and you know, you damn near killed me in front of all of them, you know what I'm saying? And that's who you owe the apology to. You don't owe it to me, because I was living in the streets doing what I do. And from there, he told me he was facilitating in the prison for the last 10 years.
I said, I've been a peer educator for 10 years. I said, I know how to give presentations and this and that.
And I'm like, wow, you know, I said, I do speaking engagements also, man, and try to keep these youth, man, on the right path so they won't go through what we went through and how we had to come up. And I asked him at that moment, I said, yo, when I go speak at the next youth facility or whatever, man, would you know, come with me and we let them know about what happened with us.
That's when Al, Smoke, and myself teamed up to give our testimony at juvenile facilities and alternatives to incarceration programs. Al would talk about his previous lifestyle and how he changed his life around and became a successful entrepreneur.
I had a couple of odd jobs the second time I came home from jail. Then I started cutting hair in a friend of mine's barbershop. As time went on, I wound up opening up a barbershop. Started cutting hair. Then I opened up another barbershop. And about 2 years after that, I opened up another barbershop. So at this present time, I have 3 barbershops active. I'm in the process of putting a barbershop together right now, another barbershop, which would be 4.
And after Al, I will give a brief on my life, on how I became an award-winning journalist after doing prison time and selling drugs and doing robberies. I would then show them a documentary I did for BET Networks where I showed my bullet wounds, and then I would ask them this question.
One of the cats that shot me up, I heard just came home from prison. I got this going on for me. I'm on the tube. I'm producing shows. I'm speaking to cats to try to like keep them from going the road that I went. I'm in a good situation. I don't think he's in a situation like I'm in. What I supposed to do when I see him?
Me, I would probably get revenge.
Huh?
I would get revenge.
Alright, you got your life right or whatever, and you got everything down packed. Like, but if you see him, you might have flashbacks and stuff, and you're gonna want to do something. Like, I probably would have popped on him.
You know, shoot him.
You shoot him?
Yeah.
Tell me why you shoot him.
Because he tried to kill me in front of my family.
I could be a millionaire right now. If somebody gonna step to me and I can't just walk away from him and he gonna try to press it like it is, I'm gonna have to do what I got to do, and that's real talk.
I would have violated his family. I would have shot his moms. That's serious.
He messing with the BT thing and all, like, you feel me? That's a good look right now, like, real talk. Like, you ain't gotta worry about, boy. You could be somewhere in the Hamptons. Let money talk for you, familiar? Real talk.
Keep it a buck. Squash the beef.
Huh?
Keep it buck, squash the beef.
Try to squash the beef?
Yeah. You should just say, forget it. You feel me? You doing BT. Shouldn't worry about that. You got your life. That's more important. You feel me? You got other things you need to do.
The few that suggested that I deal with conflict resolution gave that advice mainly because of my accomplishments. But most of them said that if it was them, they would have retaliated. Next, I introduced Smoke. We didn't let them know that he was one of the guys who actually shot me.
But I'm gonna introduce our next speaker, man, because I'm taking up too much time, my bad. This the brother Smoke. He also, you know, from round the way.
How y'all doing? My name is Smoke. I'm a peer educator. I come from Brownsville. I've been a peer educator for 10 years. This is my brother Samson. This is my brother Al. We all from Brownsville. Y'all like that tape, huh? I mean, the brother kept it real, right? Them both my brothers. This brother right here, Al, when he was talking to y'all about everything that he did, me and him graduated from the same public school. We lived across the street from each other. We hustled, we robbed, we did a lot of stuff together. This brother right here, his family lived in my building, Samson. Lived right in my building. On the 3rd floor, I lived on the 1st floor. He was inspired to make that tape. I inspired him to make that tape because I'm the one that shot him 5 times. I'm the one that shot my brother. I'm the one that tried to kill him. That almost killed him. That's right. I'm the individual that he almost died for. Now, I did life. I got life right now. It sound easy. I just did, like I just explained. I did 20 years in prison. I did 25 years and 6 months in prison. I got a son that's 28 years old. I seen 2 of his birthdays, just 2. Prison is no joke. Making bad decisions. Every last one of y'all got to make a decision. You made a decision to come here. You made a decision to get yourself in trouble, to come here. You understand what I'm saying? You better think about your whole life. Think about your future. The reason why I'm here is because you gotta make better decisions, man. Every last one of you brothers that's here gotta make bad decisions. I made good decisions. I made a bad decision, man. A very, very bad decision. There wasn't no options. It was a decision. It wasn't a choice, man. It was a decision.
We spoke at many youth facilities sharing our testimony and pretty much got the same reaction wherever we went. Our message was you can make progress no matter your circumstance, and that killing beef through reconciliation can be achieved at any level. It's all about the decisions you make, like Smoke said.
You gotta make better decisions, man.
Hi, my name is Natasha Christopher. On June 27th, my 14-year-old son, Akil Christopher, was executed in Bushwick, New York, at the age of 14.
What are you, Smoke, and Al doing now? Do you still speak to the kids?
Well, Al is still doing his thing with his barbershops, But he also started a nonprofit called Brownsville Think Tank Matters. It's a community-based organization that provides an array of services to the community. Everything from job training to youth outreach. And me, I'm no longer at BET. I started my own production company, J City Enterprise, where I develop my own documentaries, pilots, and trailers to pitch to networks. I just finished writing my first book, and I'm also very involved in the community, lending my time wherever it's needed, whenever I can. And Smoke, believe it or not, he went back to prison with a new 12-year-to-life prison bid for attempted robbery after being home for only 18 months. So by the time he's eligible for parole, he would be 57 years old and would have served at least 37 years of his life behind bars. I went to visit him in Sing Sing Correctional Facility in upstate New York. When we started the film, it started off with me and you meeting and then talking to these kids and try to like reduce the gun violence and use our own story.
That's right.
We've been through, and to show that reconciliation and taking the loss and you know, and accepting that it's all right. You lost 20 years, I lost pieces of my body or whatever.
Yeah.
And now we here. The decision making, you know, I decided the decisions I made led me to go on this path. Decisions that you made
put me in chains.
Right back with the green.
That's right.
You know, and they need to see this, man, because this is reality, man. This is real. This ain't no TV show or no actors. This ain't scripted at all, man. This is the truth. Who your decisions affected?
My decisions affected my kids. It affected right now it's affecting my grandkids. I got 4 grandkids that I never seen. I took my life for granted. Man, you can't even imagine how much turmoil I go through every day. If I wasn't so strong mentally, I would have killed myself already. And that's serious business.
Hi, my name is Maxine E. Lewis. February 6, 1993, my 16-year-old son, Carlton Loxley Bennett, was shot and killed for a gold chain at Jerome Avenue in the Bronx, and was also run over by a cab.
There's no one silver bullet to answer or respond to all the elements that encompasses gun violence in deprived black communities. There's a plethora of issues and systemic policies that add to the pot of gun violence that stirs into the mix like gumbo. Everyone has to do their part, from the neighborhood stores that aren't employing people from the community to missing fathers stepping their daddy's game up and becoming present in their children's lives. But what seems to be most effective is for the people that was once part of the problem becoming part of the solution. Once again, man, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Come on, man.
My name is Orisa Williams. My son, Andrell Deron Napper, was innocently murdered on August 7, 2006, at the age of 21.
My child is never coming back.
Brooklyn, New York. On June 27, 2012, my 14-year-old brother, Akil Christopher, was shot while walking home from a high school graduation party at his friend's house. My brother survived for 14 days and died on his 15th birthday, July 10, 2012. At that time, I was only 5 years old. Since this gun violence took away my childhood, and nothing in my life was ever the same because I no longer have my best friend. Losing my brother gave me the courage to be a voice for my generation. I turned my pain and anger and turned it into action. And started speaking out for Akil, especially for the siblings who have lost their brothers and sisters, and for other children whose voices aren't heard but feel the painful effects of gun violence. I have watched for years as gun violence continues to take a toll on communities across the country. For me, I would like to not worry about dying and focus on math and science and playing basketball with my friends. Don't I deserve to go up? On April 4th, we will remember Martin Luther King Jr. on his 50th anniversary of his death. What we sometimes forget is that he himself was a victim of gun violence. I would like to finish my speech today by honoring Martin Luther King Jr. by remembering his words, which are all as true today as when he was alive. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter, and our lives matter." Thank you.
Post-traumatic, it's like the whole hood has it. Seen too many homies and fam up in the casket. Try to count how many I knew that gotten blasted. Reached 100, then stopped counting. Couldn't stand it, no therapy. We self-medicate, sexually than Xanax. It's hard to be sober these days, couldn't imagine. Popo running rampant, popping, unarmed black men, no penalty. They hops got free, swearing they panic. Man, the hood damaged, rib touching, we famished. But stunting, Snapchatting the gram like we lavish. Posting pics with heat, cash, bragging about trapping. Funeral time, GoFundMe page, dude, what happened? Priorities vanished before pants started sagging. 80s crack ever left many tribes.